Hello and welcome to our first QPR preview show of 2020-2025 ahead of the opening day match at Loftus Road against West Brom. If you haven't seen us before, it's just a quick show before each QPR match to have a look usually at the game before, preview the match ahead, and there's usually some stats and graphics on screen for you to enjoy. This season, to make the podcast schedule easier, Dave and I are going to be doing the weekend matches. Brian and George are going to be doing any midweek games. So you're going to get a preview show for each match of the season. As you can see as well, we've tweaked our look. We're also going to have some different looking screen graphics, depending if it's a home or away game. And we just hope you continue to enjoy the shows. We, of course, started doing these 2 years ago. And in that time, QPR probably should have been relegated both seasons, we have to say. Surely hoping for a bit better this time, Dave.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the second half of last season was pretty good. It was, there was a lot riding all the games, so it was quite exciting, if not a bit tense and worrying as well at the same time. But yeah, a normal season would be nice. I don't know what normal is, but maybe like not in the bottom three for most of the season would be nice, and I'm hopeful that's what'll happen. It's been quite a turbulent couple of years with a lot of changes, and feels like this is one we need to settle down a bit and start to build again now. I'm quite hopeful that we will do that.
Yeah, I think normal is anything but the last two seasons where we've gone from being top of the league to bottom of the league, literally changing managers. Hopefully, it's somewhere in the middle, which, based on what are the most of the pre-season previews, that's where most people seem to think QPR are going to end up. I just hope that we're not bringing misery into people's lives for the next 9 months, which is what we've done for most of the last 2 years. And I just hope as well, obviously, that we aren't in a pit of misery already by 2:30 on Saturday, because we know that the season opens with a 12:30 kickoff against West Brom. It's the first of many, many 12:30 kickoffs this season. General opinion is that it doesn't help the atmosphere at Loftus Road, and it's not an easy kickoff time for the players either. What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the early kickoffs, and there's going to be so many of them. It's just so disappointing. You know, like everyone, looking forward to the start of the season, and you want to meet up with your friends beforehand, and you haven't seen them for a few months since the last game, and then we're not going to be able to do that because it's such an early kickoff, and it does affect the atmosphere, and I think it will affect the crowds going forward. You think like for a lot of people who've got kids or who play football, their training is usually a Saturday morning, so they're going to have to either say, do we go and play for our team, or go and watch QPR? So you're going to have to pick one or the other. That's not going to be great. You think for away fans, I mean, travelling down to QPR for West Brom, right? It's not a massive trip, but it's a really early start for them at the weekend. And if that keeps on throughout the season, which it looks like it will, it's really going to affect things. It's not an ideal way to start.
Yeah, I think if it carries on into the following season, it'll definitely start to affect season ticket sales and stuff, because people aren't going to commit to go into all the games when they know it's such a pain. But it looks for the foreseeable future that 12:30 is almost a new 3 p.m. So it's just something we're going to have to get used to in the short term. The QPR support, though, was incredible last season, home and away. We're now even selling season tickets in the lower school end for the first time ever. Are you expecting the same level of support again this season? Or is Marty Cifuentes' honeymoon period over shortly?
I hope so. I mean, I think a lot of it last year, there was a lot riding on the game, so there was a lot of excitement around it, and we were playing well. Be interesting to see how it works this year with the earlier kickoffs, and if we are just going to be where we think mid-table, it might not be that exciting, so the crowds might dip a little bit. But you know, I think we'll start with quite big crowds to start with. There's a lot to be excited about with this team and this manager going forward. So hopefully we can maintain it. And like I say, it's exciting that they are selling season tickets in the lower school, and there's something they've never done before. And hopefully it works and we can get even more fans in the stadium.
Yeah, and it should stop away fans having the whole end, and that always
Mm.
plays in their hands in the second half. It's funny because we're saying we want a normal season, but it could harm attendances in the second half of the season if you've got a run of dead rubbers and things like that. But I think Marty Cifuentes, he's certainly got a lot of credit in the bank, and the fans will be with him for most of the
Oh yeah.
season. West Brom up first then, and I do have a few kiss of death stats to start the season off. QPR have lost on the opening day the last two seasons, away to Blackburn and Watford, and we haven't lost on the opening day for 3 seasons in a row since the mid 90s. That was against Villa, Man United, and Blackburn in the middle of the 90s. And also, quite incredibly, and I had to check this one a few times because I just didn't think it was right, but QPR have never lost at home on the opening day when we're playing in the second tier as we are now. So fingers crossed we can keep that run going. Against West Brom, not too good either. Only one win in the last 10 games for QPR. But the last match between the two sides was a memorable, pulsating affair at Loftus Road that ended in a 2-2 draw. West Brom, they ended last season losing in the playoffs. Most of the previews and overall betting odds, I think, have them just outside the top six ahead of this campaign. Do you think that's going to be their aim again for the playoffs? And where do you actually fancy them to end up yourself?
Yeah, I think that'll be the aim again. I think they've got probably the best manager in the division. I think Cole Brown's been brilliant the last few years at Huddersfield as well. If they can hang on to him, they've got a chance. They're a difficult one to predict though because they've lost quite a few players. And I think, like a lot of teams, you expect that they're going to add more in the next couple of weeks, and the squad could look quite different. But I would have thought they should be pushing around the playoffs this year, and that should be the aim. I personally don't think they'll make them. I don't think they've got the goals in them. So, as I just said, that might change in a few weeks if they make some good signings. But as it stands in a minute, I would have them, top half, but just outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think any expectation from people saying that they could be in the top six comes from their greatest asset being their manager. If Cole Brown was to leave, I don't think people would be placing them that high. I had to look at their message board as well. And unlike QPR fans, where, like I said, pretty much everyone's predicting mid table, West Brom fans were predicting anywhere from sixth to a few of them were actually saying they'd be happy to avoid the bottom three. So, as you said, very hard to predict where they're going to end up. And a lot of QPR fans were bemoaning our pre-season results. Well, West Brom have fared even worse, lost to Bolton, Blackpool, Mallorca, Cambridge and Birmingham. Does that make it a good time to face them on the back of those results, or all irrelevant now?
I think it's irrelevant now. Our results were hardly brilliant, were they? Either, it's pre-season is just about getting players fit and trying to get some sort of shape in training. I wouldn't read much into the results. I think once the game kicks off Saturday, it'll be two very different teams than what you saw in pre-season. The players will be a lot more excited. It must be hard playing in like half-empty stadiums, and fans are not that into the games, and that is, it's a bit difficult pre-season. I think. Yeah, I'd expect them to be a strong side at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We shouldn't read too much into pre-season results, but given some of their fans saying they'd be happy to avoid relegation, and some of those results suggest something isn't quite right there right now. Over a dozen players have left as well, including former Hoop Matt Phillips. He's now at Oxford after nearly a decade with the Baggies. Connor Townsend's gone. Brandon Thomas Asante's gone. Coming in, it's been mainly free transfers. There's rumours of FFP starting to bite there as well.
Yeah, they definitely sound like they've got problems. There's talk that they could be on one of these soft transfer embargoes. They have to check every one coming in. But I say there's still time for them to bring more in. I think they will need to bring more in if they're going to challenge at the top this season. But there is a lot of players I've lost when you just listed some of them. I think that Thomas Asante, I've always rated him. I think he's a good player, and they do look like they're lacking a little bit in the final third, similar to us, really. So it might not be a goal fest at the weekend.
No, they've obviously always got Daryl Dike, but he's always that injured, isn't he? So I think it's those FFP restrictions could hold them back this season. And obviously, if the manager goes as well. If we turn our attention to the Super Hoops for the first time this season, we went over all the preseason games in our season preview. What have you felt the vibe around the fan base has been this week ahead of the opening day?
It feels like the optimism's calmed down a little bit. I mean, I think there was end of last season there was talk of playoffs and winning the league, and it probably was still going on at the start of pre-season. But I think the recent results and seeing the shape the squad's in, I think people have calmed down a bit now. And I think mid-table is what most people are expecting this year. You look at similar with West Brom. I think we still need to make a few additions. We look quite weak in an attacking sense out wide, especially with Chair out, potentially out injured. I think that's somewhere we need to improve, and that's somewhere I think we'll probably be lacking at the weekend.
Yeah, I think because of where we are in the transfer window, and we know there's still business to be done, I think it has lowered expectations based on where the squad currently stands. One thing a number of comments have picked up on, and there was a few of them on our season preview, was about the demeanour of Marty Cifuentes. Some fans saying he seems a bit downbeat in his recent interviews. Have you picked up on that at all?
Yeah, he has seemed a bit down in recent weeks. I was expecting him to have done a lot more by now, in terms of transfers, but I suppose they were probably banking a bit on this Eze transfer going through, which still hasn't happened yet and might not happen. And that was going to be like the money for us. And they were probably thinking someone would have gone by now. They'd got money in for a clock sorter or a chair, but nothing seems to be coming from that. So maybe they can't get in the players that they need, and they're going to have to wait and try and get some loans towards the end of the window. Cifuentes, he's got high standards. He's not going to be. He's not one who's going to go in and say, "I'm quite happy to finish mid-table or just stay up." He's going to be pushing and wanting to finish as high as he can. And yeah, he has seemed a bit downbeat the last couple of games, and it's understandable because, like I said, they do look weak in some areas. For me, the squad looks weaker than what he finished last season at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's partly what it is. It's some of the transfer business not being where he'd like it. And like you alluded to there, I think he's just an absolute perfectionist. So if he's not quite seeing the team at the level he thought he maybe would be at, probably gets him down a little bit. And obviously there's some early niggly injuries in the squad, which is probably not helping his mood. Now, we joked last season in our end of season review that West Brom fans had said that QPR were the worst team West Brom had faced and then the best team that they'd faced all within one season. Is part of the challenge this campaign for Martí Cifuentes to keep QPR more consistent?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we were pretty consistent under him once he got his feet under the table last season, but yeah, we can't have the lows that we had at the start of last season and expect to recover again. I don't think we'd be able to do that. We can't start like that again, getting absolutely hammered and not scoring any goals, and being cut adrift. There's no chance you're going to pull that off 2 years in a row. So we need to be a lot more consistent and with our performances as well. Even towards the end of the season, we'd be really good one week, and then like the Sheffield Wednesday home game and the Middlesbrough home game, we really dropped off.
Yeah.
And you thought, where did that come from? So they kind of need to maintain that. And it is hard with there's quite a number of 3-game weeks, and that's where we seem to fall apart a little bit. And we've got one this to start the season with the cup game. So we are going to need to manage that a little bit better.
Yeah, he did do a good job of it last season overall, but like you say, there were still some examples. Like another one was when we lost at Stoke and it was an absolutely abject performance. And on the Saturday, we beat in Bristol City. It was hard to predict at times what was going to turn up. And even when you look back under like Mark Warburton, we had good seasons under him, but there'd still be big spells of 6, 7, 8 games where he didn't win. That's what I'm hoping that we can avoid going forward. If we look at the team news, the general rumour is that Ilias Chair will miss the first few games of the season. So you're expecting the same start in 11 as we saw against Brighton last week?
Yeah, possibly. I think the back four very much picks itself at the minute. I think it'll be the usual one there. I think the only question is, does he bring Varane straight in? Maybe leave Cole back out, or does he go with the experience for the first game? That's probably his biggest call. And who plays on the left? Whether he goes Coley or Lloyd. I mean, it's going to be a young and going in and having a big opportunity for him. I'd like to see Coley get a chance because I think he's looked quite bright pre-season. But that's probably his two main choices, really. Varane in midfield and who plays on the left. The rest should be. You'd think Seller would start up front. They've paid for him, so you assume he's first choice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Frey probably likely to come off the bench, and Dykes hasn't been fit, has he? I agree on Varane. It probably is the question mark, but I think he'll probably be on the bench because he's only been introduced to training midweek. Based on what they did last season, they tended to slowly blood new players, didn't they? I agree on Ryan Colley as well. I'd like to see him start because it's a big opportunity for him if he gets the nod. I mean, it's big shoes to fill, Ilias Chair, but if he can get into those pockets of space, start running with the ball, drifting beyond players, he should impress. And I think you said it before, but he looked good in his cameos last season when we saw him. But it would be his first QPR start, so it'd be asking a lot of him. I just encourage all QPR fans to get right behind him because it's been well documented this week. He's been subject to some online abuse, probably some idiot virgin sat behind a fake account, but it's unfathomable that people are allowed to get away with it. It's a strange world we live in, so just get behind Coley if he does play. And that just leaves us with prediction time. I know it's your least favourite part of every show, but QPR have the chance to win 4 league games in a row. Not done that for over 2.5 years since we won 4 in a row from the start of 2022. Will we win 4 in a row?
I think we can. Whether we will or not, that's another thing. I think, hopefully we can start fast and try and get on top of them. We've said they've lost quite a few players, so it's an opportunity to try and get on top of them. But I think first game, I think neither team are going to want to lose, and I can imagine it's going to be quite a tactical game and probably a score draw. I think I'm going to go for in this one, maybe 1-1.
Yeah, do you know, I've got 1-1 in my notes as well because I just think it will be tight. I think it'll be the polar opposite of the match we had with them at home last season. Like you say, 2 teams feeling each other out, probably scared to lose in some ways. Don't want to start the season with a defeat. So 1-1. Do let us know your predictions for the opening day in the comments, or why not join in our QPR Prediction League and our other free prediction games on our forum as well. As you could in the last show, you can scan the QR codes and it takes you directly there. Brian and George will be on the next show to preview the midweek cup to Cambridge. And then Dave and I will be back next week for our first away game of the season, as we'll preview the trip to Sheffield United. Enjoy the opening day. Thank you for watching, and come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.